What's the story, guys? Just before I start this off, I just wanted to show my bona fides first. This is my G1 collection, just to show I'm not some blow-in into the Transformers thing. I got this back in Paddy Barrett's back in the day, down on Henry Street. That doesn't even exist anymore. Yes, that's £10.99 is how much that G1 Megatron cost. I do intend to get round to displaying them someday, but right now it's just a bit of a nightmare. And this is the stuff I've been picking up recently, just trying to fill in the gaps of all my G1 collection. And there you go, there's the original Devastator there. Oh, by the way, down there is Fortress Maximus still boxed. And as anyone in Ireland and the UK will tell you, trying to get Fortress Maximus was a nightmare back in the day because he wasn't officially released here. There was literally only one of him for sale in one Time Master, I think, as a competition, for a colouring competition back in the day. So he was a real holy grail character. Anyway, I just wanted to show you all this to give you an idea that Transformers is my thing. This is the film I love the most. So whilst I was reading all the other comics that my brother was getting, like the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Iron Man and all that, Transformers was the first one I picked. And I always had a good place in my part because of that. And it literally took IDW making a dog's feck of it in order for me to get to drop the comic. So this is my review of Transformers #1 from Image, specifically Daniel Jordan Johnson's one from Skybound. And just to show, it's actually nice to get some good art again. And that's the cast and crew there. So I'll split this into what's good and what's bad. I'll start off straight away with what's bad. The paper quality. This does not feel like a quality book. You're paying $4.99 for this, and it's pretty much very cheap feeling. Now, that doesn't really bother me because I've been born and raised in Ireland. Like I said, we got the 2000 AD and the Transformers UK stuff here, and a lot of that stuff was printed on newsprint back in the day before it went glossy, so I'm used to it. But from the US point of view, this doesn't feel like the type of book you get out of Marvel or DC. Plus the art, because while it is really good in terms of design, layout and intricacy, as you can see there, Daniel has a very scratchy style, and I know he's having a lot of hard time from people on the forums saying they just don't like it at all. He is kind of reminiscent of Jeff Sr. in a way, but it's not as polished. Thankfully though, he is very good at dynamism, so his storytelling really does hold up well. The colourist is Mike Spicer, and I think he's worked several times with Daniel. It seems a bit dark and muted to me. You know, like, I mean, if I specifically think of stuff like Target 2006 back in the day about Gina Hart, I think used to do, or Annie Halfacer, they were far more polished. And like I said, particularly with this paper stock, it seems to absorb an awful lot of it. But you do get some really nice flashes like this. So, could be a lot of stuff to come off into better. But that's pretty much all the bad I can give. The rest of it is very good. The writing is great. From what I can see, Daniel Warren Johnson isn't a comic book fan of Transformers. He's more of a cartoon fan of Transformers. And it seems to be all leaning into that. I mean, there are some worrying things like the race-swapped Carly that kind of gets a bit worried about the might go down the IDW fact of intersectionality and all that nonsense. But overall, the story in #1 is really good reintroduction to pretty much the classical stance of Transformers. And Warren Johnson does seem to be sticking by a lot of the tropes that Transformers tend to have. There's certain things that they really need to do. Like, one thing they got to do is, as we're seeing here, an awful lot of Decepticons are being resurrected, and the first thing they're doing is going to killing spree. So we've got Ratchet and Optimus Prime basically outnumbered by Skywarp, Soundwave, Starscream, and Ravage. And that's important because one of the things that really makes Transformers work is that they have to be outnumbered. The Autobots have to be on the back foot. There's have to be a struggle to basically justify how somebody who's as powerful as Optimus Prime gets to be as cool and heroic. And as we can see here, actually sympathetic again. Actually seeing some compassion from him and mourning here over Bumblebee being shot. Which, by the way, I'm calling bull on, because if you look at that impact, most of his brain is still okay there. It's in there somewhere. And they can actually download into their chest. So it's really hard to kill a Transformer. So this might just have more shock value than anything else. The smaller cast really gets you to allow and focus on the characters of the Autobots and Decepticons involved. And that's really important here, specifically in relation to Optimus Prime, as I said, who's looked far more compassionate than he was before. And Starscream. Starscream has been pretty much portrayed as a snivelling little coward. And he's not. That's not his original G1 description. Yes, you tend to see him be a little bit cowardly and snivelly around Megatron. But that's because that's Megatron. Anyone else, he's actually quite a capable fighter and quite brave in himself. So I'm quite interested to see what they're going to do with just having Starscream as a leader, being a Decepticon. And I know a lot of people were giving out about this and saying it's a little bit gratuitous, but you know what? He's an evil Decepticon, so it's nice to see him actually doing something evil. For too long in IDW, that kid, you kept trying to rehabilitate him, the same way they tried to rehabilitate Megatron. That's just not what you need to do when you want to have a good versus evil comic. And that's what this is. It's a good old-fashioned return to what feels like the very early days of the Marvel comic, and maybe even the Marvel UK comic. In fact, in particular relation to Jeffar, you actually get an old-fashioned Jim Shooter, one-and-done story of beginning, middle, end for him, and coming back, resurrecting the crew, and basically biting the dust trying to protect Optimus. That actually used to be a Marvel mandate back in the day, that anyone who was picking up a book, yes, you could have a multiple-part storyline, but at least every book had to have at least one storyline that was finished in that issue for the new reader. So we're getting some good old-fashioned 80s, 90s Marvel comic book storytelling. It's still early days, it's still issue 1, and like I said, from what I've been hearing from behind the scenes, Hasbro's been giving out to him about certain stuff he wanted to do and how he portrays them. So it could still all go IDW before this is out, but right off, this is a brilliant start. Fantastic number 1 issue. I know it's a bit of a hard sell on the art front for people who are used to Alex Mill and Don Figueroa, but for those of us who were raised in the UK comic, this is not that far away from what Stas Johnson used to do when he was starting. And while the individual description might be a little bit scratchy, the storytelling, the dynamism, the sheer power that he brings with it, more than makes up for it in terms of excitement. So, Transformers number 1 by Daniel Warren Johnson, the new one from Image, it definitely meets the hype to me. When I went back into the Forbidden Planet in town to have a look, it was sold out. So, I mean, it's actually flying off the shelves. But if you can still get it, I'd advise you to. It's a lot of fun. Take care, guys. Have a good one.